The following is a special presentation of Tony Kurre Radio. Keep your mission on your mind and your mind on your mission. This is Mission Minded with Michael Coleman.
Keeping our mind on our mission and our mission on our mind. This is Mission Minded. Michael Coleman, he is the CEO of the Heart of Alabama Food Bank. We've taken a couple of weeks off, my man. We're backed up a little bit. We've got a lot of emails, info at TonyCurryRadio.net. It is the holiday season, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas. Just say happy holidays to you early because I know we're kind of hit and miss, and we talk to each other every single week, but so good to see you back on our Zoom call here. And of course, our big show, Mission Minded. We got a lot of emails to you too. How are you doing? Everything good?
Yeah, things are going good. You know, you always have challenges, but I'm glad to be able to carve out some time to spend with you because that's always important.
You better carve out time to spend with the old Tone the Bone. I'll come find you. I'll come down there and find you down there. Info at TonyCurryRadio.net. Speaking of holidays, Mary in Birmingham, to Christmas bonus or to not Christmas bonus. She said, I've been in a situation where I used to receive Christmas bonuses every single year, a little Griswold action where you kind of expect it to be part of your pay and all of a sudden things change. I know when 401k started like 25 or 30 years ago, everyone was matching penny for penny. Sometimes they would double it. And then when I left, I was getting 1% on my 100%. I'm like, whoa, what happened to this 401k? It just fell apart. It got me in the building. And then all of a sudden I got nothing. Then they started giving me stock options, which I really didn't need because that was at 1 penny too. She said, when times are good, we appreciate Christmas bonus, but then people expect that. Is that a good thing to start? Should you ever start Christmas bonuses?
Well, just a few years ago when I came in here, I asked that very question because where I've been, I've always tried to do that. But she is 100% correct that it is very difficult to remain consistent because what drives it is not your desire to give and to share with the employees. What drives it is the amount of income you brought in and your availability to do it. And she is 100% correct that when you start giving it, then the appreciation for it. We do this with children. It happens with employees. When they start getting it, then they absolutely appreciate in the moment, but that appreciation is so fleeting. And you'll have some employees that go, you know what? Every year we get this, but if a year comes up and we're like, hey, we just can't do it this year. Now, but I made a commitment to doing it if at all possible, because if you just take it to the idea of bonuses, period, what I try to do is I try to use any kind of benefit like that. First of all, you have to explain it ad nauseum. And even as to, hey, this is not a guarantee every year. So if you do that, you hopefully can build it in. But I would also start recommending, you can even start talking about projections. Like, okay, everybody, we normally distribute it's budgeted. We normally distribute it at this time. We're 3 months away from that. And if there's ever any doubt, you say, look, I'm still trying, but it's not looking good right now. So you go ahead and start tempering expectations then. Mm-hmm. And as long as you keep people updated, but if you don't say anything up until the announcement date and they're expecting money, and they don't get it, it's much worse. So you start back in September because you typically know how your year's going by then. And so that's what I try to do. And so I try to temper expectations and kind of control that. It actually also helps that they know that you're thinking about it and you're fighting for it. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't just give them a check. What I do instead is when I give them or put their bonus in there, I really take time to let them know, hey, this. Not in a scolding way, like, hey, you shouldn't expect this every year, but really add the words to the money and say, I fought for you. And let me tell you why, because I recognize you come to work every single day. And this company, you are the backbone of this company. And I wish I could double what I gave you because that's what you mean to this company.
Well,
and they're going to remember those words far longer after that money's spent. Okay. So tie it into that, either, use it as a time to encourage, to thank them, to really as an outpouring, make it as personal as possible. But even then, it's fair to say, hey, I am so happy to announce. I wasn't sure. I told y'all I wasn't sure. But I'm so happy to announce. It looks like maybe, I wanted to give you this, but I wasn't sure we are going to be able to do anything. But here's what we're going to be able to do. So again, they see, wow, they're doing everything they can.
Yep.
But if you don't express that, they say, "Oh, those greedy bastards! They got plenty of money. They don't." You see?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah,
and so you go through that, and but I will tell you, it's not just the bonuses, because the way we have it set up now is we have Christmas bonuses, but I put those in the budget. But I tell people every year I'm going to look across the board at their salaries. And that as a principal, it bothers me if I have a good employee and people who are doing above and beyond type stuff, the idea that they go 3, 4, 5 years without any bump in their pay, and that because it is a groveling situation. It feels like a demeaning situation.
Mm-hmm.
To have to come, hey, I've been here 5 years. I really need more. I'm losing money every year to inflation. I need you to up my salary. And so I talked about this probably last year sometimes, but it can be such a game changer if you don't wait. If you just look at each employee situation and you go, you know what? You're doing such incredible work, and I don't recognize that enough. I'm sorry. And I want to increase don't make them come ask for it.
Mm-hmm.
Tell them you just see their work and you're compelled to increase their money.
There you go.
And even if it's just a little bit, they're like, man, I didn't even come in expecting a raise. Now, here's where it gets hard. So here's the difficult thing. You own a company, nonprofit or whatever, and they're a good employee, but you literally do not have the funds. You fought for it. You told them about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I can tell them one year, guys, look, did everything we could. There's not going to be anything. If I sing that song for 2, 3, 4 years in a row, guys, I've done everything I can. I can't get it. Yeah. They're like, their loyalty to what they do wanes. And how can you blame an employee who otherwise wants to be there, who loves what you do, loves the company culture, but has kids to feed and college to pay for, all those things? How can you begrudge them looking out for other opportunities? So I remember people coming to me at times, and either I couldn't give them that, but I would be very honest, and I said, look, you deserve more, or you deserve a higher promotion. Yeah. But the people above you are excellent as well. Mm-hmm. And so we're just capped. It's, as to upward mobility. And they're like, but I have more talent. And I'm like, you're 100% correct. And I will even try to help them, even though it's soul crushing to lose such a good employee. I'm like, I'm not going to be selfishly thinking about what I'm losing. You have honored this company by being loyal and faithful, and I can't meet your needs any longer. So here's my payback in part to you is, let me put the word out on the street, be your strongest advocate, and try to get you something even better. But that all comes from the right culture and the right perspective. But when other employees see that and other employees know that, then on the times you can't give them everything that they want, they give you the benefit of the doubt. You don't get the rumblings. You don't get the backbiting. You don't, or at least as much of it. Because if somebody speaks up and says, oh yeah, we didn't get any extra money. And they're like, hey, I've been at this company for 10 years. If they had it, they'd give it to us.
Yeah. There you go.
There
you go.
I know that was a big old long answer.
No, that's good.
But
yeah. James in Northport, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. What in the hell is wrong with these Boeing workers? 4 years, 35% pay increase. It's not enough. And really the premise behind this question here is the pension. Boeing dropped their pension 10 years ago. My brother's got a pension from GE, and it's like, man, he gets like a check for $6,000 a month for the rest of his life. I'm like, man, growing up now, I got a 20-year-old son. I'm like, dude, if you can get into a job, and I realize a lot of this pension jobs are like factory jobs and stuff. They're not jobs that people really like, police officer jobs, stuff like that. And I'm thinking to myself, man, how sweet would it be to have a pension in anything I'm doing? Of course, we try to create our own pensions with our Social Security and our 401ks, but it doesn't really work out that way. Is it fair for employees to go ask for something that hasn't been part of their, and then of course they just announced they lost $6.2 billion the last quarter. So I don't know where Boeing is. I don't know how they can offer 35% or they're asking for 40. I'm assuming they're going to meet that and then they're going to bring back some type of pension, but just talk about pensions a little bit. We've foregone for pensions a lot. That was kind of a 50s and 60s kind of thing, right?
That's right. Yeah. It was kind of across the board, city governments, all that kind of stuff. Now I'm going to take the other side of this position just temporarily so you can try to illustrate that perspective. So let's say you're a corporation or whatever. Now, back in the day, you had, when people came in, they would be there forever. You might have, you had limited people. And back then you'd say, just like the military, like I have with the military, you do 20 years or 25 years. This is what you're going to get X amount of percentage of your pay. Well, then what begins to happen in life expectancy, maybe back in the 40s, was 10 years, 15 years difference. Mm-hmm. So now company grows, or just think about this. Let's say you have 500 employees. All right, now they're living longer. So you're having to pay that check out. So with the longer living, you've got more people who each year are entering into this pool and pulling from it. And so you've got that problem with longevity. But then you've also sometimes got drawdowns within the company itself. So the actual revenue that's coming into the company is lessened. Now, that's not always the case, but lots of times that's the case. And so companies just realized, as governments have, it is just not financially doable to out of pocket if the employee pays nothing into it. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, if you think about it, there are a lot of people, especially union jobs, sometimes that can be, let's say, less than stellar employees, but they show up. And so they're getting paid, and really oftentimes for the amount of that individual worker who may be a slug, he'll show up every day and you can't fire him because he's part of the union. He may not violate, but he's slow. He's not motivated. He doesn't care. And me as an employer, I'd be like, no, I'm paying you to come in and be. So they make it through the system. And now not only has that person cost you money while they're employed, now you're going to pay them money for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Yeah. Employers went to a system that said, hey, you have to have some skin in the game. And so what we're going to do is we're going to still give you money towards that, but we're going to put in what you put in, kind of a match as an incentive and try to incentivize that. So for us personally, this is the way ours, and everybody does it differently. We say, okay, when you come to work at the food bank, you can instantly start donating to your 401k. After 1 year of employment, we will match a minimum of 3%. So let's say you choose not to put any money in it. Mm-hmm. We're going to take 3% of your pay and put it in there every pay period, not 3% every pay period, but a total of 3% for the year. Oh. Whatever that segment is, it's going to go in there. So if you don't put a dime in it, we're going to put 3% of your pay in there every year. but we will match it dollar for dollar up to 5%. So if you say, okay, if 5% is $100 for me or $200 for me, then we're going to match that dollar for dollar. And you can even put more in there, but we're only going to match it up to 5%.
Yeah.
So for our perspective is if that person chooses not to do it, if he's not even pouring in, he or she's not even pouring into themselves and their own future, why is it my obligation to pour into your future?
No, yeah.
I'm paying you a salary to come to work every day. I'm paying you benefits so that you can go to the doctor, you can go to the dentist, you can do all that. Why do I owe you a lifetime salary because you come to work every day, but as if I'm not rewarding you every day anyway?
Yeah.
And so most companies just realize I can't do it. The only reason the military can do it because our government prints money.
Yeah.
And so,
well, and the thing about this particular,
they can afford it.
The thing about this particular thing too, and I hadn't realized that Boeing did away with their pensions, and it's been a sore spot ever since they did that back in 2014. They're going to want this to be retroactive. I mean, if you've been at Boeing for 30 something years, you're going to go, okay, I want my 20 something years of pension on top of that. Yeah. So this is going to be, this could be hitting the lottery.
Well, and we've talked about that. And I don't remember, it was a previous episode about, you're like, how can you lose $6.5 billion and still be building airplanes? Well, remember, it's not a net. Okay, here were all our costs and here's all our expenses, and we're in the red $6.5 billion. That's how we think.
Yeah.
But what they do is these are depreciation write-offs or all this kind of stuff. And so, we lost $6.2 billion, but it doesn't mean their actual cash that they're $6.5 billion or whatever less. The planes, they can write off that depreciation for a certain amount of years. So all of that, they're losing that. So it makes it look like it's a much bigger deal, because you're like, how can you sustain $6 billion losses? Well, several billion of that is just nothing but just planes getting older.
Sure. Yeah.
And so, I mean, you have to keep all that into perspective.
Info at Tony Curre.
That was probably a little oversimplification, but you get the truth.
That's good. Info at TonyCurreRadio.net. Mission minded. Of course, you can hear this show every single week. Check us out. Look for Tony Curre Radio and just pull up Mission Minded. You can see 17 different shows we do on Tony Curre Radio's podcast network. It's fantastic wherever you get your favorite podcast. And of course, you can hear the show every single day of the week right here on the TKR app. A lot of people like to hear it first run. Benny, also in Northport, wants to know what's the best way to fund a business. He is in the process of funding something kind of small. He said, should I look for investors? Should I get a small business loan, or should I ask my government to help? I guess a lot of people learned this through COVID, these SBA loans that were out there. There was a lot of money floating around out there, and I guess it was a lot easier to get small business loans during that 2-year period when we were all kind of copped up. Is that something that we want to we don't like big government unless we need their help. and then when we need a check, when we need a check, we're like, we love big government. It's great. They're going to give me a loan, a real low interest loan for the rest of my life. What do you think is the best way?
Well, when somebody's doing something like that, the best thing to do is, because there is no single answer to that, because the person who's doing the business, it all depends on where they are. So there's a couple things to keep it like, okay, so how much cash do you have on hand or have access to? It could be zero, or it could be, I have $250,000 to invest. So you have to figure out, look at you, and then look at what your credit rating is. So in other words, hey, I don't have any cash, but my credit rating would give me access to cash, or what assets do I have that I could to use for collateral and things like that, like equity in my home, all those kind of things. So everybody comes to the table from a different place. SBA is a helpful organization, but their loans sometimes, you've got government red tape you have to expect, and you have to expect strict oversight of how that money's spent. And just understand that the SBA, somebody doesn't come along and just go, hey, I've got this great business idea. And the guy goes, great, and strokes you a check for $50,000, and you walk out the door with it. It is a process that you have to create a business plan. It's going to be scrutinized. Your assets are going to be scrutinized. And they're going to poke. I mean, a lot of people say, I want to go start a business. If you want somebody to put you under a microscope, then get government involved. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm not discouraging that, because that may actually be the best way. Now, I was involved with something not too long ago that somebody contacted me and asked me to advise them on. And it had to do with some AI technology and some things like that. So I'm over here on the sidelines. So I didn't have anything involved other than my time. And that was the question. Hey, where's our money going to? We're going to need X amount of dollars, and we're like, okay, how long do you need that upfront money for you? Because you might, hey, if a franchise says you need to have a building and you need to have, they'll tell you $100,000 cash, and you have to prove that.
Yeah.
So you're laying all that out, and so you're like, but hey, I have this new idea or this new technology, or I want to do this business or whatever it is, but I'm just short 5,000, 10,000, whatever. There's nothing wrong with going and asking somebody, but just understand when you do that, when you have investors, all that up front has to be determined. That was one of our problems, is the people I was talking to. I'm like, okay, if I go get an investor, you have to tell them up front what the expectation of their return is. If I give you X, I'm going to get Y, and not just I'm going to get Y, but I want to know when I'm getting Y.
Yeah.
If I don't get Y at this time, then I expect Z, and on and on and on. So you see the complexities of it, but I would encourage this person to really take a long, hard look at where they are, look at all the options and lay it out. And if they're still unsure, that's when you really helps to get somebody who is smart, business advisor. I get it. That's more money. Maybe even a friend who's business savvy, to sit down and look at that. Because sometimes we think, oh, I've got a great idea, but nobody is going to be willing to invest. Like the idea itself doesn't have the idea that's going to bring in big profits. So just because it's an idea that you're passionate about doesn't mean it's going to be something somebody's going to be willing to come off of money for.
Yeah.
So, and then how do you determine how much equity is in a business? If you say, yeah, I want you to give me $10,000, I'm going to give you 10% of my company. Well, you just stated right there that your company's worth $100,000. $10,000, I'm giving you 10% of it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And somebody else is going to come along and go, all you have is what's on paper. Tell me why you valued your company at $100 million.
Yeah.
I mean, at $100,000. Mm-hmm. That's nothing but just written on paper.
Yeah.
You don't have anything. So those are the kind of questions that investors and people with money are going to ask.
And I'm here to tell you.
Just want to encourage you to be prepared for it.
No, it's hard. It depends on how much you're asking for, and it depends on what your idea is, and it really depends on your investor too. $10,000 to some people is nothing.
That's right. It's chicken feed to a lot of people.
It's not to say and it would make a major difference in a lot of small business owners' lives. And then there's some guys that they want the entire business plan, and I've been there, done that. It's easy to get that foot in that door, but it's hard for them to get that check. Info on TonyKurre.net. To kind of go along with this, Tommy wants to know: should I franchise or build my own? I've got several business owners in the Woodhouse Day Spa. Stuart Rome's a good friend of mine. He had a franchise, but he's also built his own buildings. But he's got the Woodhouse Day Spa. When he first bought in, they had like 16 or 17 locations. Now there's 65 locations. He doesn't own all of them. He owns the one here in Birmingham, but he just talks about how much easier it is, when you're part of a franchise. But you need to have a building, you need to have a certain amount of capital, you need to have cash in hand, and sometimes it's millions of dollars, depending on whether you want to open a McDonald's or a DQ, or you want to open up something like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've thought about this a lot, because I actually at one time looked in, I'm like, do I want to go down this path? Do I want to be a franchise owner or whatever? And if I do, so I would research them, and it'll tell you, you got to have X amount of money. You have to all the buildings have to look the same. So it's going to cost you, $1 million construction project, just on and on. But to me, it boiled down to this. Let's use donuts because everybody knows Krispy Kreme.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves Krispy Kreme. Now, Krispy Kreme will say to protect each store, if you want a franchise, we can't put more than 2 Krispy Kremes within 5 miles. And then they do it population based. Excuse me. And every company does that differently. So they protect territory. So that one good thing is, hey, if you buy in, the company protects it. But maybe you don't know how to make donuts, but you love Krispy Kreme. And so you're like, it's proper. Hey, I want to do a Krispy Kreme franchise here. I think it'd be a good fit. All right. But let's say that you know how to make donuts and you have a special donut or you have a special gift. Okay. And let's say that you think your donuts are very competitive against Krispy Kreme. Right? Then the thing is, well, look, I've got the product, whatever the product is. It could be burgers. It could be sushi. It could be whatever. Look, so if I'm bringing that to the table, then they're not going to allow me to change the recipe at Krispy Kreme. So I'm bringing something of value to the table. So it's going to be less convenient because I got to find a building. I've got to create the legal, just everything that's handed to you with a Krispy Kreme franchise. So your friend is exactly right. It's much easier to franchise, but it also can be much more costly. Because if you're buying into years of experience and value that's been built into the brand, you can go open up a donut shop pretty cheaply and then build it and grow it or do with it what you want to. So again, a lot of it starts with who's the person looking and what's the best fit for you. So again, I get why they're asking the question, but so much of it depends on what your view is. Are you open to risk? A franchise, any business is full of risk. But I'm going to say, okay, if I've got X amount of dollars, what's more risk? Starting my own company, even though my food may be good, nobody's heard of. I don't know anything about location. I don't know anything about population. I don't know about anything about that versus I'm going to hang up a Krispy Kreme sign. Which one is likely to be more successful?
Sure.
Of course,
yeah.
Krispy Kreme. But you're going to have to pay money for that. So you go, well, I don't have money. Well, then you're back. You see, so once you research it and lay it all out and you got your pros and cons, lots of times the facts on the ground will determine which path you go. If you have an option, I would say lean towards the franchise if you can financially afford it, because it is easier. They're not going to let you, they've already dotted the I's and crossed the T's in terms of legal protections, food safety, quality, how to navigate all those places. They give you advisors to help you and coach you. You don't have to go figure out every single answer to a question through Google searches and talking to attorneys. That's what they do. And that's why there's value in franchises. So if you can afford it, I would say everything else being equal, franchise it. If not, and you have to do it, still step out there. I love entrepreneurial thinking and perspectives and people who take chances. And it doesn't always work out, but man, you learn so much in life, experience so much in life. And it's exciting to see somebody take an idea and produce great things with it.
Michael, great stuff. Mission-minded, of course. So you like what you hear, send us your emails, info@TonyCurryRadio.net. Sounds like we have a bunch of prospective owners out there, some big-time questions about pensions and everything else and bonuses. So it's good stuff. Keep it coming. And, of course, another show we do, Bite by Bite. We do that right after this. It airs right here on Tony Curry Radio's network of podcasts, not to mention the TKR app as well. Michael, till next week, my friend, thank you so much.
I enjoyed it as always.
This has been a special presentation of Tony Curry Radio.